الله 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 نور السماوات والأرض. Lantern of light evolving together.
And nice to see you in Birmingham, and we're still doing in Zoom while we could also meet in live. But inshallah, we can do another one because due to the high demand and so many questions we had after our third episode of post Ramadan and the energy level and all those topics that we had. So I have quite a few questions, and the ladies did amazing though in Ramzan. They were bringing salad, they were trying to sleep well, thinking so positive. I could see how the communication between the mothers, the girls, ladies, seniors, fathers, boys, they were trying, and to balance as well the food, not only food, also spiritually, mentally. So it was really nice to see that. So due to that high demand, I have few of the questions that we can do today as a question and answer. I think that would be nice. And if you would like to also add what you think after that they should do, please do and help us. Thank you for supporting as always.
No problem. Inshallah. Go ahead. Do you want me to start, or do you want to start with the questions straight away?
It's up to you. What would you feel like doing? Starting with some of it talk and then questions.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I can start with something from a continuation from where we left off last time. Just very quickly summarizing some of the points I was mentioning last time about my own journey and what I'm discovering from a health perspective. So recently, actually, somebody mentioned to me that did you know that our body is actually 0.01% matter, physical things, and 99.9% is not matter, is energy, is vibrations, it's frequencies, it's all of this kind of stuff. So we focus so much on 0.01%, and actually there's a 99.9% opportunity there for us to become healthy individuals outside of just the matter. I thought that was very profound because we tend to focus a lot on these intricacies of matter, and maybe there's something beyond that that keeps us healthy. We've all seen this, so I'm just sharing something that I've seen through Shahr Ramadan, where you see maybe an elderly person, a senior person, for example, who looks like they're full of energy, and maybe their food isn't that on point, but there's something else that's driving them. And I think that's what's keeping them very energetic and healthy. And of course, we have to concentrate on the 0.01% of matter because that's reality. We live in matter right now. So we do have to concentrate on that. But just as a prelude to what we've been talking about in Ramadan, Shahr Ramadan, this idea that maybe there's something beyond us that's actually keeping us full of energy. And even the choices we make on food, maybe that apple that we see has got some energy to it that's beyond us, beyond the actual physical apple, but there's something beyond that. And something that's maybe not so healthy has some low level energy maybe in it that we're taking in. So this is just something to think about. I was just writing down a few things. Another point I'd mentioned, I've been hearing positive things that Masara, you were telling me about the Jamaat and including salads and fruits into the iftars and things, and people are really trying hard to inculcate some healthy eating habits. And another reflection I had during this Shahr Ramadan period was environment. When you create the right environment, it becomes a lot easier for things. So all of us know this. If we go into our kitchen and it's full of little sweet treats everywhere, it's very easy to go, let's have a little bit of that, have a bit of that, and we keep snacking. Same with some of the questions, I think, which we're going to get a little bit later about snacking and craving. So if the environment around us is conducive for unhealthy foods, we are naturally, because of the nature of human beings, going to be susceptible to that. Whereas if the environment is very healthy and it has good things around it, it's just easier to be more healthier, unconsciously sometimes as well. Let's say like for example, you were mentioning about the fruit platters that we got this Shahr Ramadan, which was beautiful because you're sitting on this sufra and you have loads of fruit platters all around. Now you're just likely to pick that. Grapes, apples, oranges. It's natural to do that. All of us did it. We're all hungry, of course, but it gave us some good nutrients. So another point which we mentioned about was environment, creating the right environment. And then the last aspect I had written down here is the social aspect. The idea that when we're doing this together, when we're being healthy together, again, usually if someone's trying to be, we've all had this, those of us who are trying to be healthy, and we are trying our best. Sometimes we slip, sometimes we do well, but we go into a social setting where everyone makes a joke about the healthy eating side, or you just must be eating salad or something like that. So this is the jokes, and it's very difficult sometimes. You can avoid it and just sit back and say, well, I'm trying to be healthy, alhamdulillah, and trying to give positive energy to encourage everyone else to be healthy. But when society, i.e., Jamaat, for example, or friends, family, are doing it together, it makes such a big difference. We suddenly find an ease in the idea of being healthy. It's not a difficult task, it's easy to do. So these were the kind of 3 points that I had mentioned previously. And one just note, because I don't think I mentioned this last time, is a physical exercise. Don't forget. We focus a lot on, in Shahr Ramadan, maybe we focus on food a lot because of the nature of fasting. But don't forget our physical exercise. And that doesn't mean it has to be in the gym. It doesn't have to be going for a particular sport for those of us who don't play those. It can just be simple things in the house, pumping our body, just reaching above our head, stretching a little bit every single day, a little bit of strength work. All of this can be very helpful. So just don't forget those things, especially coming out of Shahr Ramadan. After we've been fasting, we didn't tend to want to exercise unless we were playing sports in the night. But generally speaking, it feels the exercise level goes down. So as we're coming out of it, we need to pick back up our exercises and our general day-to-day activities as well, inshallah. So these are like a couple of points. If we start with that, and then you can go on to some of the questions if I can answer them, inshallah.
So going through the energy, we had some of the questions through energy saying that normally you shouldn't eat after the sunset, like just, and before the sunset. Why is it like that if you have the answer? Because also they say even when you do exercise, it's, and it's, Islamically, if you think as well, it's about, just before Fajr, you should do all these du'as and stuff. And after, like that Maghrib time, Zohar time, they ask for before Fajr time. But the same thing, few of my friends, they were saying that we've heard or listened a lot of postcards where they say when you do even intermittent fasting, your energy is better when it's after sunset. You should, and just before sunset, you should eat your last meal. So that was a bit also why is that? Is that because of the sun, or what is it? The daytime. This is one of the things they were discussing about.
So I'm actually not sure of the answer. But I give some reflections, maybe the possibilities. It's an interesting thought actually to think about energy before sunset, after sunset. In terms of just one thing on exercise, I think most of the people that I listen to who talk about exercise post sunset, like say nighttime exercise, the reason why they generally say to avoid is usually, especially if its sunset is late. So in England, maybe sometimes in the winter it's really early, it's different. So we have to think about different places on the world that's different. But let's say now, for example, in summertime or spring, summertime, where it's getting a little bit later, if you start exercising now at, was it 8:30 right now, 9 o'clock, 9:30, by the time you finish it's 10:30, your body's cortisol levels and energy levels are so high already, it's very difficult for them to come back down for you to go into the sleep cycle. And that's maybe why the energy then through the sleep, you don't get enough good sleep. So the energy in the morning is low. Now, having said that, anecdotally, there are many people who exercise at night and it gives them a really good boost of energy, but then they allow themselves an hour, 2 hours to calm down, and it really helps them to sleep as well and gets them to have a good sleep because they haven't been active throughout the day. So I don't know the full answer, and these are some of the things that I've listened to. Some people, for example, who are sedentary, they work on the desk all day, they need a little bit of a boost of movement. Maybe that helps them to sleep better at night. So I don't know. Whereas some others who are very active in the day, and then if they try to exercise at night again, it can be too much. The body is over energized.
Yeah.
Then sleep becomes a problem. So that's exercise wise. In terms of intermittent fasting and energy, I mean, you have to go to some of the experts out there on this, whether there's a difference. One thing I have learned recently is the sunlight has some specific rays, specific red light, for example, that has some really good benefits on our body. So usually that early morning red light is very beneficial for anti-inflammatory processes, for vitamin D production, for all of those things. So that morning light, the first rays, maybe there is some significance there that we need to get out to into that rays more often. So maybe there's something there about getting our body's energy systems ready for the day if we get morning sun exposure, and of course maybe also for nighttime exposure. I know one thing, that when the sun does go down and you get the orange light, the red light coming in, that stimulates melatonin production in the body. Melatonin is that one hormone that helps us to go into sleep. So that's why it's quite important that we're not always exposed to this type of artificial light, because that can change our rhythms of sleep wake cycles, and that may be affecting our energy as well throughout the day. So maybe there's something in there around the sunlight and the idea of the sleep wake cycle, this idea of cortisol to melatonin, cortisol to melatonin. So cortisol is the one that gives us adrenaline and gives us energy, and melatonin allows us to calm down and sleep. And so when you see the curves, the waves that we see in the graphs for cortisol, you'll see in the morning it starts to rise up quite steeply, and then mid-morning it goes down a little bit, afternoon it goes up a little bit, and then it comes down again, and then slowly throughout the night it starts to go out. And the melatonin does the opposite to that cortisol. So in the night it goes up while the cortisol is going down. And that's what we need to see in our bodies. So when we do certain tests on our bodies, if we have a bit of a wacky cycle where suddenly cortisol is being produced more at nighttime, that's probably why we can't go to sleep, or we're going to sleep and we don't have good sleep, or we're waking up in the middle of the night again because our body's wake cycle is not in rhythm. And it seems to be that it's in rhythm with the sun. So as the sun rises, as the sun sets, that's our rhythm. Now, I don't know the answer when it comes to the UK, for example, or Europe, for example, that have all of these different timings. Maybe there's something different there. I would go to some of these experts out there. There's lots of people that we can look at. I'll come up with some names and then I'll send them to you, because I know a few people have written books and things on this idea.
Oh, thank you so much. Also, I also heard that when you step on the grass early morning, it's really good for your immune, when you're walking, and early morning, you should walk when the sun rises. So what you said as well about, the sunrise and just before sunset, those energies are really good. So that'll be one of the connection as well.
Yeah, but only thing is we live in a very different society. So we're taking this advice and understanding from ancient times when people used to live where there was none of this technology and lighting and all these other things. So they would wake up with the sun and they would go to sleep after the sun sets. They would go out in the morning naturally because that's just the environment they were in. And it seems like their bodies were more healthier. That's why we're taking that understanding and trying to implement some ideas for our everyday life here, which can be difficult, especially in the morning, because it's cold, for example, or it's wet and you don't really want to go outside, or you don't have a grass outside, for example. So there are other ways in which to do that, but the idea is still the same. The principle is try to expose yourself to morning lights in the morning.
Thank you so much, Zain. That was a good one as well. One of the good energy topic that some of them were wondering how to also improve in the energy level and how to adapt in the lifestyle. So some of the question was coming with the food. We have so many about food. So that energy level and the food with the mindset, how would you say to cope? So I had one of them was, could you ask about tips how to manage and include enough protein in all my meals throughout the day? But I would love ideas on easy way option for my lifestyle. And or to swap the boost protein without making things too complicated. So literally it's about the general lifestyle, how to encourage them. What would you advise to balance it, And especially these are all like doctors and those who are working till like a long time, like a very long day. So how would you help them to, with that?
Yeah. It's difficult for myself included to do something like this, to balance our meals properly. I'm not sure if this idea of having enough protein, having enough carbohydrates, having enough fats is actually a real thing. If you think about, again, we go back to ancient times, maybe sometimes food would have been carbohydrate heavy, maybe it would have been fat heavy, depending on seasons, maybe it would have been protein heavy. And so this idea that we're trying to create a balanced diet is good. Obviously, we have to have balance. But I'm not sure if there's such a thing as, okay, how much is enough protein? How much is enough carbohydrates? How much is enough fat? So that's very important just to start off with. But let's say we're struggling to include protein in our diet throughout the day. I'm sure that the person asking the question is already getting enough or getting lots of, because it seems to be protein is in everything. It's in all kinds of foods, things that we don't even realize sometimes, even vegetables we don't realize has a certain amount of protein in it. Different types of vegetables, of course.
You would say
But let's say, sorry,
vegetable, dal, our
yeah. So
every food.
you've got beans
Dal,
and lentils and dals,
beans, yeah.
exactly. They all have good proteins in it. The best idea would be probably to use our lovely internet system and type in list of protein foods, whether vegetarian or meat or poultry. Print out a list and then maybe have it on, stick it in the fridge or in the somewhere where you can have a look at different options. That's one. So you have a different option. Oh, I didn't think about dals. I didn't think about lentils. Didn't think about chickpeas, that kind of things. Or I didn't think about having different types of poultry meats, for example. You might have not thought about it, and then you feel, okay, yeah, maybe I can do that today. But your question, I think, is for some people who are having long hours, working long hours, and then trying to balance food in this
keep
situation.
it easy as well.
Yeah,
so
and
when they
making
come
it easy.
home, they have kids, they have husband to feed, to cook. So these ideas are, I think, is perfect as well that you mentioned, to have a list in the fridge, and it's easier to organize as well. And also they're high to protein and making maybe in advance for 2-3 days.
Yeah. So
maybe
I think with food generally, what I've experienced is it's never really that easy. If we want to try to be healthy, we've got to be able to try and I'm talking, I guess, not on everyone's behalf here, because I know that it's difficult in lifestyle to make sure we're cooking and we're maybe batch freezing and doing this kind of stuff. My poor mother does
maybe
this
boil beans and
food.
lentil. You can boil it, and then when you come, or make it for 2 days. What do you think? That would be
Yeah,
good.
so things like this. I mean, all these ideas are great. I'll tell you what, one thing that can be good is making stuff. If you are one day you have some free time, you can make batch production of things like granola bar type things. You can make these and you can have them when you go to work, right? Protein type of bars.
Yeah.
You can make things like batch products of, like you said, with boiled lentils or chickpeas and these kind of things, and leave them in the freezer ready to just essentially heat up and grind, or things like you can make into a soup, right? You can make these things into soups. You can have chicken broth or chicken soup ready made and it's in the freezer, right? These kind of things. So whenever you struggling, you have a late day at work or these kind of things, I think soups generally you can get away with quite easily, getting lots of stuff in it and packing it up with proteins. Those kind of things are easier to do because you can have the mixture ready made and frozen. That could be one idea. You'll need all of you guys to come together and come up with some clever ideas, because we always struggle with this, how to do quick things healthy. And if we have a list of ideas, and me included, I'd love to benefit from that as well. It'd be great. These ideas we just have to share with each other. And we just try our best. But as I said at the beginning, I think the key is we shouldn't feel there is a specific number we have to reach to get enough protein.
I think
Or there's
the
a
way you
specific
mentioned Yeah, I think the way you mentioned about the list, whatever you want to make, if you're organized and what you want, it's easier then to plan it.
Of
Um,
course,
that's
of
what
course.
normally I do. Like from Sunday, I'll make it for Monday and Tuesday. Say Monday is my moon day. Tuesday is like lasagna or spaghetti bolognese or chicken meat curry. That will last me
Mm,
till Wednesday. If it's
yeah.
less, have bindi or
Hmm.
spinach,
Hmm.
then have something different like pasta, healthy pastas one with some
So,
chicken or sweet corn or
mm,
veg pasta bake,
mhm.
and depends which one we get.
Yeah. And this is it. I think it's always about organizing. We used to do this a lot, me and my wife. We used to
Yeah,
have this food in diary thing, whatever, calendar. So, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's on the fridge. And
yeah,
on Sunday, like you said, we'd write it down from
yeah,
Monday all the way to the next week, Sunday. So you know what you've got in your food. And then one time, I remember doing this. I remember making a list. I think we still have it as well. It's on a Google Drive of like proteins, fats, carbohydrates, like
mm,
all different types of foods we have in these lists. And
yeah,
so on the Sunday, we might just open it up and be like, okay, yeah, oh, we haven't had this for a while. Okay, we'll write that one down. We haven't had this for a while. We haven't had that. And it's true, once you start it on the Sunday and you plan it, it's
yeah,
really easy throughout the week. It's just about the consistency of Sunday goes and then you forget to plan and Monday comes and it just starts again. So I think you're right. The consistency of planning on a Sunday for the week will probably be the best thing for anything food related.
yeah.
It
Thank
reminds
you
us
so
to do
much.
it again.
So that's a very good thing. So because we try to balance, and then some family wants to go on the weekend treat day. So what we normally do is once every 2 or 3 weeks we go out for treat day for kids. So it's balanced, so they don't feel like they've been left out with the
Mm,
environment that we live, and
mhm,
some
mhm,
friends and kids who are sometimes very unhealthy. So we don't want them in future when you're too strict. So
mhm,
we try to balance. What do you
mhm,
think about that? With the
mhm.
parents when we try to explain, would you advise to do like that or just have
Yeah.
it whenever they want? Because they say as well
Mhm,
when your hormones like teenage. So I had a one question about teenage youngsters, teenage between
mhm,
13 and 21.
mhm,
They say that, oh, or when they're going through hormones or time of the month or something like that,
mhm,
they
mhm,
say you should let them have what is satisfy them that time, and then
mhm,
back to normal to have their diet
mhm,
plans, the home food
mhm,
and stuff. What would
mhm.
you say about that then?
Yeah, I mean, we're all these foods, these sweet
Yeah.
treats, are dopamine boosters, right? So they make us feel good by eating them. So by
How
making us
much,
feel,
how much, so basically I was asked, sorry, I was asked about the mothers and the fathers and generally even the mothers when they're at work, they feel craving, or the
yeah,
fathers, they have this
mm,
coffee with high sugar. They were asking how to stop these cravings, or how much would you say to have to balance it in a day,
mm, mm,
so then these kids or mother, father work, how much
mm,
would you advise,
mm.
throughout the week as
So
well?
yeah, so again, I'm not expert in this area to know that this is exactly what we should do, right? But from my experience so far, I feel
Mhm.
that these type of cravings and food and sweet treats, etc., are very much linked to our emotional health. Emotional health. This is what I've understood. For my own
Yeah.
kids and my own children, you'll see that, for example, and we'll all notice this, if the child is very, very tired and extremely sleepy, but they're hungry, or they've already eaten, let's say they've already eaten their dinner, for
Yeah.
example, at 6:30, 7 o'clock, they've already eaten, and then they're really exhausted and tired and they're pushing themselves to stay awake. They will, if they say, I'm hungry now, they will not be satisfied with something that is healthy or something that's food, like a dinner again. For example, I'll tell them, look, there's some rice left over, why don't you have some rice? Or there's a banana or there's something. They want something to keep them awake, right? So they want something that's high in sugar to
Yeah.
push them to do something. And the same thing happens if you haven't slept well. So if you had a very bad sleep, we just came out of a week of wedding events and we were sleeping very, very late. So let's say you sleep late and you wake up then early just because you can't sleep. The first thing you crave is sugar again. And it seems like it's to do with the body's emotional health. It's feeling it needs something to keep the dopamine kick alive. Otherwise, it's going to crash again and it's going to have to go to sleep, or it's going to tire out and it won't be able to focus. So, for example, the question on work, I think is related to kind of focus at work, stress at work, emotional health related to work, satisfying work, these kind of things. If it's not satisfying, if you don't have purpose with the work, you don't feel energized by the work, then you're always looking for something to maintain the boost of dopamine.
But
So
how
then you
much would you
crave a lot.
say? How much would you say
Right?
caffeine to have a day? Like some
So
people.
before we go on to that, the other one is about, you mentioned about when we give our teenage kids or kids, for example, this sweet treats and things. I mean, all of us love to have it as long as we're having it together as a family, we're having it together.
Yeah.
The only problem I see is that we may not necessarily know how much high sugar content foods we're having throughout the week already, unknowingly, right? So we have it unknowingly. Now, if we're having good foods throughout the week, then it's not a problem at all. And also it can be very beneficial because you're doing this with friends and family, so it's energizing, it's fun, it's exciting. There's an attachment to that. There's a love for that. We all know, and back in when we were children, we remember going for ice cream or going for this with our family, with our friends. It's like, oh, Friday Jumma treat, for example. It's like one of those things you look forward to. It's just the fact that it happens every day. I know in this Shahr Ramadan, when I was in Dubai as well, sometimes we, like for example for Fatiha, we're giving the kids so much sweets already. So like 4 days in a row there was ice cream, for example. It was a bit too much then. And then that's where it doesn't become a treat anymore, because then you want to go as a family after that, but you're not going as a family because you've had 4 days of already, the sweet treats. So avoiding this is very beneficial for us, I think, in the long run, for our bodies, for our health, for our emotional health as well.
Sunday once a week, twice a week, is that fine?
However, you as a family have decided that you wish to do it, I think
so
is
not
best.
like every day, like you mentioned.
You know best. All of us know inside how much we have been having.
Like we have in our healthy group Sunday treats. So everybody share Monday to Friday. When it comes to Sunday, everybody sends the treats as well. So we put it with that as well, just to encourage them to have
exactly. And sometimes we can have healthy versions of those treats, and they're quite good as well. So there's something there, so we share with each other.
Cakes and brownies and cookies that I've made as well myself, and other moms and ladies have shared in the group. They're amazing tips. That today only we've had some moms asking for healthy snacks. So I had lots of sugar-free, using banana instead of sugar, So we had lots of those ones. Thank you. And
we just need to remember one thing is that before, we never used to have that opportunity to have so much of this very quickly in our hand. Now it's very easy to buy a sweet, to buy a treat, to buy a fizzy drink. It's very easy. And that's why the problem is it's accumulation. And it's
that's very cheap in UK, very cheap to buy, very cheap to buy the takeaways. So they just think that it's fine, and the parents give the money, pocket money, and that. So I believe that you mean that we have to restrict as well, right? Like we need to balance it. So we know the value and how much to eat, right? Thank you. So Farzana just quickly said apologies, she couldn't make it, but she had one or two answers that she put. I'll share in a bit. Also, they were asking as well about caffeine. Caffeine, smoke, roughly. What would you say about that?
So I think the smoking one is on vaping, right?
Vaping, I love vaping going on with teenage. I love vaping is one of the highest one. And caffeine, coffee. If it's sugar-free coffee, how much would you advise? Some moms or fathers, or they go work and they try not to have sugar, but they have tea sugar-free, or they have coffee. Even at mosque now we have sugar-free as well. But how much would you advise roughly a day, maybe, just to get that limit or something?
So for this, for vaping, I don't do it myself. I don't know how it feels or what it tastes like or what it feels like. And so I really think someone who's gone there and experienced it.
I have tried. It tastes so good with the fruit flavors, but it can be very addictive as well. And I know a few friends who play footballs and stuff. So what they do is that they reduce, because of course they see the impact sometimes in the stamina. And they were asking how can we, so I know a few of those friends, they ask how can we reduce, because they are trying to reduce but they can't stop completely. Maybe you have an idea, and
Yeah.
caffeine as well. Yeah.
So the vaping one, if it has an addictive nature, then basically we'll have to follow all the people who are talking about, talking about addictions, and all the people who are even the really wild addictions like drug addictions and alcohol addictions. If you listen to those people who have gone through their stories, I follow this guy called Rich Roll who used to be an alcoholic before and came out of it. He has a lot of things on addiction, ideas on addiction. Although I know vaping is not the same, I know 100%, but the kind of concepts and ideas, if it is an addictive thing, then you can learn a lot from, I've learned a lot from him, because addictive thoughts, even, we have addictive compulsive thoughts and ideas. Same kind of idea. If it's an addiction, then we can look at that. So I'm not sure about that. In terms of caffeine, so caffeine, this is always a big question. Now I'm realizing a lot of difference from different types of people. So you have to listen to your body. You have to learn about who you are. If you're a very hypersensitive type of person, you're very active, hyperactive. I see this a lot with, for example, patients who come into the clinic room. If they walk in the room and they're, yeah, I just dropped my son over there, and they're like that, and then they're having 2-3 cups of caffeine or coffee or whatever it is, caffeinated drinks, even sodas or these kind of drinks. That cannot be good for them because basically they're hypersensitizing their sensitivity even more. That's too much. And then on top of that, the thing with the caffeinated drinks is it pulls fluid out from your body. So it's a diuretic. So it pulls, so that's why you need to go to the toilet more often. So you become more dehydrated in the body. So if you're a very hyperactive type of person, lots of thoughts, thinking a lot, always doing things, and then you're doing that, like lots of caffeinated drinks on top of yourself, you're going to be dehydrated. The mind's going to go into like a bit of a hyperactive mode, thinking too much, and you're never going to have the focus to be able to concentrate on something. So that's the issue with the caffeinated drinks. But there are some people, and this can be beneficial actually. There are some people who are not those type, who are not the kind of people who want to go for HIIT classes and run loads and very hyperactive and thinking all the time. They're not that kind. They're quite sluggish and slow, not energetically. They're just, trying to find their feet a little bit, trying to push themselves a bit more, trying to give themselves a bit of an encouragement, trying to detoxify the body a little bit. So what's been shown is that sometimes things like coffee, caffeinated drinks can help detoxification pathways in the body. For example, and I'm talking about good ones, good quality as well. It's not just Nescafe and things like that. It's good quality. I know this is being recorded, so I'm using brand names. It's not good. But these kind of ideas, we've got to try to go for something that's a little bit more wholesome. It's coming from the ground. The same idea as nutrition. If the carrot is coming from the ground, then you know it's going to be healthy. The coffee is coming from the ground and it's sourced properly, then you know it's going to have some potentially good impacts. But if we are going for, this is my view, and maybe lots of different views. If we're going for more than 2-3 cups of coffee a day, and I'm saying even 2, I think that's probably too much. I think if it's 1 in the morning before midday, so your body can detoxify and get rid of it by the end of the day, it's okay. But if you're having like 1, then you have to crave another one, especially if you're craving it. Like I know this firsthand because I become a bit of a coffee drinker. And so in the morning, in Dubai, for example, before Ramadan, I was having this coffee 1 every morning and I had to have it. And I'm thinking, well, so Shahr Ramadan didn't have any. The whole, maybe once off, I think at night, maybe 1. But I basically didn't have any for 30 days. So then what was I craving so much before? What is that craving? There's an addiction to it probably as well. So we just have to be careful with that. So 2 points there. I know I talked a lot. One is it's a diuretic. It pulls water out of the body. So it makes it dehydrated. So that's quite important. And the second is depending on the type of personality you are, we have to think about whether we have these addictive or caffeinated drinks or not. So we have to learn a bit more about who our personality types are. Are we very overthinkers? Not good. If we're not there, then maybe it's okay. That's why you see this conversation between people. Some people say, "Oh, caffeine doesn't do anything. I can have it at night and go to sleep, and it's fine." That's a different personality type. And there's another one who's very hyperactive and has it at night and they can't sleep. So this is the difference in typos.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that tips as well. I'm sure that would help those who asked as well. And some are online and some are going to hear later as well, because I'm going to share in the group. All this question was shared with few moms and friends as well. We've got a few more. Ask about how to stop sweet cravings. Would you say, like you said, would you say to reduce slowly, or what would you say again?
So the quick answer is change the environment.
Yeah.
Change the environment. So if it's work, for example, your drawer should be full of healthy snacks, for example, instead of unhealthy snacks.
Yeah.
If it's in the car, so this is a common one, right? Someone leaves something in the car, some sweets or some drink, chocolate, whatever, it's in the car. So you get in the car and you see it. Of course, you're gonna feel like eating it on the way home, right?
Well,
So you
I
have to
don't.
now think.
I'm so used to it.
Say again?
I said I don't anymore. Instead, I
Yeah,
just
but
hide
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you gotta be more if
I
you're the type
agree.
of person who has that
Yeah.
craving kind of mindset, then
Yeah.
it's just about making sure being really what's the word, conscious of putting an environment that doesn't allow you to have those slip ups. And if it happens like at home you come and have, it's okay. You know, you had one, fine. But it's the other environments, the work drawers, the cars, the coming home, like you get into the kitchen and you put your stuff down and there's like a big chocolate bar in front of you or something like that. There's cookies I made from yesterday. Okay, you're gonna have it then, right? It's natural. But if there's, some fruits or some
Fruits,
nuts,
dates,
seeds, these kind of
nuts.
things,
Yeah.
dates, kajur, yeah, these kind of things. Okay, still have it. You still feel good because you're a bit of a sweet thing, but it wasn't so bad for you.
Yeah. That sounds good. Also, bloating. We had acid reflux going on.
Mm,
Few of people, even my husband had it. Um, not only me, not only my husband, but other people as well. What do you think? And also, some houses had a healthy food like mine. He doesn't really eat much, but still had this acid reflux. So, do you think was
mm,
it build
mm.
up, or because in Ramadan suddenly he had
Yeah,
that's an
yeah.
example? But I know a
Hmm.
few other moms, and they were saying they were
Hmm.
really struggling with that. And
Yeah,
what
yeah,
he did, to be honest, but if you can have more ideas, please share.
yeah.
For mine
Mm,
was more like he was just drinking a lot of water, some milk
mm,
lassi, savory lassi with a bit of mint, with a pink salt, and also he had some green teas for
yeah,
to get the inflammation. So I had a
yeah.
feeling that it was inflammation. But I
Hmm.
wasn't sure
Hmm.
that much because I
Yeah.
was thinking what I've gone wrong there. I think
Yeah.
he didn't have enough water, maybe. But
Was it
because
just in Shahr Ramadan only?
yeah, it started
Yeah,
in Shahr Ramadan. So I feel
yeah.
like, but the rest of general wasn't in Shahr Ramadan. They suffered
Fine.
through the year, but this one was in Ramadan. So I feel like it was
Sure,
maybe lack of water that he didn't have enough.
sure. Yeah.
Um, and what we did is green lemon teas and the som tea, fennel
Mm,
seeds teas and things
mm,
like that.
mm.
But if you have any more ideas, please share it
Yeah.
overall, how that impact comes with the
Hmm.
inflammation, especially in your
Hmm.
body. Because
Hmm.
some moms said as well, the inflammation like fully dry, like swollen up
Yeah,
and things like no mom only dads as
yeah.
well. How did they get attacked? I know you said about daily routine. You
Mm,
said build up the daily routine, then you'll avoid all that and what you have. But do you
yeah.
think also it connects with your sleep and stress as well?
Hmm.
Because it starts after 35, 40, or when they have kids
Yeah.
and after.
Mm, yeah. I think there's probably many factors. You've mentioned lots of different ones. There's
Yeah.
probably many factors to it. It's either, if it's reflux, for example, it's either an overproduction of acid, or it could be sometimes an underproduction of acid. It can be either or. And finding out which one, there are ways in to do it and these kind of things. If it happened in Shahr Ramadan, it's most likely because we've been fasting throughout the day. And then our bodies, we normally, before we even eat a meal, we produce the acid ready for the meal to come in. So the acid in the stomach is being produced when I'm looking at the food. So suddenly in Shahr Ramadan, those meals that you used to have breakfast, lunch, dinner, for example, or snacks in between, where you were having those is gone. Your body is getting adjusted to when to produce the acid. So that's a possibility that maybe it was because of fasting and then breaking a fast, then it was coming about. So that's potential cause, but there are many different causes. So probably not a good idea to go into depth into all those different causes. But I think you've given some really good tips on basically reducing some of that reflux. Using all of those things that you've used can be really helpful. I think one of the best ones is also just making sure you take time while you're eating your food. For me personally, this has helped. Just chewing the food and spending time with the food. If we're eating it very fast, then the body can't digest it quick enough. So you get this acid
And I
reflux.
think men's get a lot more than women's.
I think that also is to do with
I've
breathing.
noticed.
Okay, so there's a very big impact from our breathing mechanics in men, but it can be in women as well. But the diaphragm is kind of like it's a big balloon, right? And as you breathe in and breathe out, it does this motion. And so it compresses, it pushes things up, right? The stomach sits underneath it. It pushes things up and then it pushes things down again. And so sometimes if we have a very what's the word, like a tight diaphragm is pulling up all the time, it hasn't got enough space to compress down because of maybe we're not using our lower ribs when we're breathing, we're not breathing through our tummy, then you can get things pushing up instead of going down. Okay, so that's also important. If we are chest breathers, you get maybe potentially some more acid reflux. So try to become a little bit more a tummy breather, just practicing that, especially in men. It'll be beneficial, could help the acid reflux. But as I said, there's so many factors, so many factors. But these tips you've given so far, all these different ideas is great. Perfect.
Thank you so much. That was one of them ticked off. They got so many, but I'm just trying to get as many we can do for this session, and then inshallah we'll build up the next step. A lot of healthy foods have nuts and peanuts butter. What are the alternatives for people who can't have any nuts, just to boost yourself? Because those people emotionally as well suffer a lot, you know?
So they're looking for alternative snacks, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are alternative snacks other than nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's have a think of that. We can probably think through some ideas.
Yeah.
If it's not seeds, if it's not dried fruits, if it's not let's have a think of some other things other than nuts that they could potentially have.
We shared some few, like if they want
Yeah. Which ideas did you have?
Like,
Which ideas did you have?
Like dried plantains, air fried. I was thinking sweet corns, dried. Those are not nuts, really. Chickpeas dried, and you can just air fry them and put with salt, pepper, snacks kind of thing. And I thought
anything dried, basically.
Fruits and veg, but they were thinking anything dry. More ideas for that, if you know.
Yeah.
Please.
They're looking for things probably that they want to quickly snack on, like few nuts.
And
like
especially, and they're good in protein and stuff, because then some of the mothers, kids, teenage, they suffer a lot, but then they have low on vitamins and things like that. I don't know if you would advise to have gluten-free vitamins or something, to have sometimes to just top up with those snacks. I don't know.
As in, you mean supplements?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to find good sources of those. It can be helpful. But of course, I think the first primary goal is always trying to get it through nutrition and food, first of all. So if you can do these little things, like you said, plantains, chickpeas, peas, dried fruits, dried vegetables, these kind of things, salt, pepper, savory, sweet, both. And you can have a pack of those. You can put them in some nice jars. Always the look of it, where it sits in the kitchen, how it looks is always the most important. And then you will start eating it because it's there and it feels like it's nice to eat.
Quick one, I'll just read what Farzana said also about snacking.
Sure.
Because she was off. She said sweet cravings again. That's from Farzana answer, because she couldn't make it. Sweet cravings again need to balance blood sugars by eating high protein, high fiber meals. 3 solid balanced meals with protein, fats, and fiber, and no snacking between will help balance the blood sugar. That's what she said. Yeah. So that was one of the answer. So next one, quickly, I can finish this 2 or 3 more. So we said about the vape, we said about the caffeine, depends how good the coffee is, and sugar-free.
Your personality
how much
type.
and your personality. But what would you say? Would you say half cup or 1 cup a day is fine? And depends on how much you hydrate with water. Would you say, would you advise with that?
Hydration is key, and also, I mean, doesn't half cup, 1 cup, you choose. I really think now I'm seeing it more often. It's really about your personality type. How do you digest this stuff? How do you break this stuff down?
Yeah.
And that's not only your physical breakdown, but your emotional and mental breakdown as well. How does it work on you? And
Okay,
if
so
you're,
another impact was the girls, basically, there's so many girls are going through exams. So they're sitting, having exams. And what happens that when suddenly they go to play any games, badminton, football, they're
you're
really
getting injured.
struggling. So because they were just so focus friendly. So do you think that impact with the brain and the body, the bones? So how would you recommend slowly restart? As a coach myself for football, I've also noticed that with the teenage, so between 13, 15, also some
That's interesting.
girls older, so they have that, I could see that long stamina to reduce too. Do you think is that because of the screen and the revision and then the whole month they've been revising and suddenly they finish the exams? I could see they've dropped down a bit.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's like, it's a stressful period for them, right? It's like for an adult to go through a stressful work
I thought we'll ask
month.
you because you work with the bones. So what would you get them some
Okay,
tips?
so I mean, in terms of why it's happening, it's really to do with the inflammatory processes in the body, the chemical processes in the body. So you're really stressed. You're not really moving a lot because you're studying, you're doing exams
And
and stuff.
fasting,
You're
not moving a
fasting,
lot, exams.
yeah, hydration, all of this, emotional health, physical health, all of it's going, really trying hard. So your body is giving a lot of energy into those things, those areas. It's not going to focus on musculoskeletal health, muscles, bones, joints. It's not going to focus on that. It's going to focus on survival. And the survival at that time is, I have to pass this exam, and I have to do this exam while I'm fasting, and we've got Ramadan, etc., etc. Right? So when you come out of that period, if you're going into exercise very quickly, you're likely to get injured. Many people who have emotional trauma, so they lose a loved one, or something happens which is very tragic, or something happens, and for a month they're out, and then they start to recover and they go back to sport, they get injured because their body is not prepared for
You say to start with
that.
warm up slowly.
Yeah, so warm up slowly, maybe easing into exercise. I mean, if you're going straight into playing a sport and you haven't warmed up 100%, you're going to get injured. But even at home, and for those young people who are listening, who are doing exams or have had exams, or maybe will have exams in the future, it's just simple things like getting up between your revision time and doing a bit of pumping exercises, doing a bit of walking or running around the house, and having fun around the house is very useful. Number one, for focus, because you probably revise better, and also it gets rid of all the anxiety of stress of the exam behind you, or in front of you rather, and it just lets everything out. So now, I don't know, just doing something that's having fun. Playing around with sisters, brothers, cousins, etc. Going in the garden if you have a garden, playing with a ball. Yeah, this kind of stuff. Yeah, just messing around a little bit in between your revision times. That will also help you to stop getting injured when you come out of it, because 100% your body is pumping a little bit more, it's moving a little bit more.
And we have in 3 weeks time tournament, so I'm really a lot more pressure than them. We've got a tournament of football, so
don't put them under more pressure now.
Yeah, because, but we bring every year trophies, so Alhamdulillah, just pray this year again. And I know lots of girls, not only football, we've got netball as well. So inshallah, pray that they play well. All I want is that they don't get injured, they have fun and achieve, really. And like you said, those drills, but if you could send me later on some of them, that would be good for avoiding injuries, especially. That would be great. So I can start warming up, because we've got this Saturdays, Sundays, and we've got few sessions. So that would be amazing to have, because I know many girls are in the exams. And, when it comes to sports, they reduce, but we try to encourage them as well to not carry on, even if it's little, because that helps for the mind development. And like you said as well, all those will help them as well. So that's one of them. And let me check the next one. So hopefully this will be helpful. If you send me next time the video, that would be great. We can share those, because you also work with the bones, and I've seen some of your videos where you tell them how to help with exercise or what warm-ups, like even if it's light, to avoid especially ankle, knees injuries, stamina. especially is always the case. I feel like it's knees or ankle or the wrists, or back is okay. It's always the legs parts and the wrist parts and yeah. And what did they say? The last one. I love eating. I enjoy so much eating, but I don't know how to stop. That's what one of the moms said. She said, I enjoy so much eating, but it's so hard that I struggle to not eat. What would you advise for that? How to start? Some of the moms really struggle. Not only moms, even dads. Like they feel like when there's a certain age, how slowly, give even a little bit of tips, how slowly they could start with the journey of lifestyle. If you give us a 2 minutes tip to end with the session, you talk about the energy, the routine. If you tell us like a 2-3 days, you said about freezing and stuff, but another thing, what would you say overall? Freezing? That exercise, food, spiritual, just a general 1 or 2 days, they can always repeat that with different stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Regarding the question on loving food, I mean, I think it's always a matter of...
Do you think it's hormones because you get older?
It can be, but yes, it could be if it's looking from a physical
and also
standpoint.
Stress. You remember fathers and mothers who has teenage and stuff, they always behind them, work and...
But also, it's also like if you have a real love for food, a passion for... Some people have good passion for food. They like different tastes, different flavors, etc. I think it's always about mindset, right? It's always about mindset. If in Shahr Ramadan we can do it, then we can definitely do it outside of Shahr Ramadan for sure. It just needs a little bit of a push. Yeah, so he needs a push, right? He needs okay, I'm going to avoid it for this time because I'm done. I've kept, if we listen to that prophetic hadith, right? Half, was it quarter filled, quarter water, and then quarter empty, right? So it's like something like that. Third is with food, third is water, and third is empty. So something like that. So we know that we don't have to fill it completely because obviously that's not a very prophetic thing for us to do. So we can then still enjoy food. We can enjoy the nature of food and how blessed that food is and how many tastes there are in the food, how many flavors there are. The problem is not necessarily the food, right? The problem is overeating the food. So it's not the food's fault. The food is amazing. Alhamdulillah, Allah gives us a chance to eat all these amazing stuff. It's about the overeating side that I think the question's coming from. So I guess it's asking our own selves the real question, like what do we think food in the relationship to food is? And then we just have to judge that for ourselves, inshallah. In terms of ending with a bit of a summary in all these areas, possibly from what you are getting from me when I've been giving some of these talks, some of these series, is this multi-dimensional approach to health and wellness and lifestyle rather than a one-dimensional approach. So it's not that we have to be hyper-focused on one area. It's more that we have to see if we can try to balance each area as best we can. And wherever one of those areas, like you said, stress or sleep or spirit, whichever one of those areas is starting to fall down a little bit, so maybe it's not as strong, we need to do some practices quickly to strengthen that area. So obviously the hierarchy is spirit. So if the spirituality is dropping, it's the first point of call. We have to recover our spirituality, recover the connection back to God. So that's the first point we have to go to. And those other things like food and sleep and exercise, it's not that you forget them. They actually aid in that process. So they aid in that process. It's like a domino effect. So for example, if I'm feeling lazy and not connected to my God, for example, maybe I do need to look at my food as well, because my food may be the thing that's making me feel the laziness or feel the energy is low. I do maybe need to look at going for a walk to take off to end the stress, and boost the morale and feel like I'm exercising and the blood is flowing in order for me to come back and feel like I can connect a little bit more. So these are all domino effects. But I think what we have to do is focus on the area that is starting to fall down a little bit. And it happens throughout our life. We have peaks and drops. So I just come out of a week of wedding events, obviously lots of wedding food and all this kind of stuff. So now I have to think to myself, okay, I didn't really eat that well during this time because of the nature of the events that we were going in. So now I have to recover myself. So now my focus has to be back on food, back on trying to get myself back to restoring my gut health and my body and etc. If, for example, I've traveled a lot and I haven't managed to exercise, then maybe that is what my focus needs to be, to recover my health. And those other areas, so if you think about the 5 areas we talked about, which is very common in all these now functional medicine, naturopathic medicine, all these medical fields, they talk about nutrition, they talk about movement, they talk about stress and sleep, and they talk about spirituality, or rather put stress and sleep separately, so we get 5 altogether. And these 5 areas, if you focus on them, then inshallah your body is balanced and you feel good and you feel healthy and well. And of course, I know that there are some intricate stuff that maybe you try these lifestyle things and you're still feeling quite low and sluggish. Those maybe need a bit more investigation. Maybe there's something else going on that might need further clarity.
Maybe cut down and reduce slowly. Those are the steps. And like
and we all know trial and error. You know, we speak to you and you've tried certain things and it's been amazing. So you're like, okay, I'm going to continue that.
Yeah,
that's what we
the
need
ladies, the boys side, as I told you earlier, the feedback was amazing. That's why to the high demand, we came back to you. Inshallah, the part 4, is it 4 or 5? So we'll have to carry on after 3 months. Inshallah, we'll talk about that as well, the next steps. And as we said, that was amazing.
What would be really nice, if I can ask this and request this, for those who have been interested, who are paying attention to this discussion, for them to feel a little bit vulnerable in coming on and sharing with us some of the things that have helped, some of the ideas that have, been very valuable, some of the stories.
So all these people who ask questions, what I'll do, I'll get them to share what helped them and get you feedback. So I'll get them audio if they don't want to do face-to-face. Sometimes.
Sure. Yeah. Because it's otherwise it's a monologue, it's me speaking. I don't even know what I'm trying to become better myself. You might hear things from other people and stories can become very powerful. So if they can share, it would be very useful.
Who are sharing all these foods, we'll get them to share, like even to send the audio or some written.
Amazing. It would be fantastic.
We had before, I don't know if you remember, 2-3 moms who shared their experience. I think that was the second part. But this time they wanted to say that let's share our questions, and that was the plan. But inshallah, next time what we'll do is share more of those audios, play those audios, send or share their messages, and then from that we'll see what other concepts is lacking as well. So
yes, inshallah.
So thank you so much again.
Pleasure. No problem.
I think it's amazing how the impact has improved as well, because we saw in Ramadan and how all the moms are trying hard, how many moms and fathers and kids have joined even in sports. Not only sports, spiritually, it was amazing to see that unity, like you mentioned. Also the food impact, when we saw all this salad and the greens in the niyaz, so main food, but we could see all these nice greens. It was amazing. I'll share with you later on all those pictures I've taken, and all these moms who shared, and they're doing amazing. Thank you to you for always supporting the team, and inshallah we look forward in future again.